watching Channel 20 TV. Be with Channel 20 and let us make things better together.
Welcome to our show, the regular series talk show program of Channel 20. We've got with us today Marina Mazzini. She is one of the pioneers in terms of United Nations Interregional Crime and Justice Research Institute matter. She is the responsible for public information for UniCry. And her experience is pretty long. She started her journey pretty long. She was among the founders and managers of Human Rights Center relating to peace and human rights. She has been devoting herself. She's contributing a lot of things to the world's citizens for the betterment and continuous improvement through her participation in this work through UniCry, United Nations Interregional Crime and Justice Research Institute. So today we would like to just take the opportunity to talk to her, to learn something about UniCry, their effort, their contribution to the world citizen, so that we can embrace their hard work and their value in our life. And you never know, that little bit may create a bigger impact to other citizens of the world. So let us welcome Marina Mazzini. Hi, Marina, how are you today?
I am fine, thank you, and thank you for inviting me to have this chat with you. We believe it's really important to have many ways to communicate, to explain our work, to make awareness about the topics we are addressing. Yeah. So I wish to thank you for the interest you have expressed in UniCry, and I'm very pleased to be with you today. Thank you again.
Very much, Marina. It's my pleasure too. So, Marina, first of all, as you know, our audience are not only based in North America. Our audience are based also in Asia and Europe, other countries as well. So, I would like to request you to just explain in a very simple way the role of UniCry for our audience so that they can understand what exactly UniCry is doing.
Yes, the UniCry is an institution of the United Nations that was created in 1968 within the scope of its mandate to develop and improve the policies in the field of crime prevention and control. The mission of UniCry is to advance justice, human rights protection, and the rule of law in support of peace and sustainable development. Mm-hmm. We work in specialized niches, selected areas within the field of crime prevention, justice, security, governance, and the risks and benefits of the technological advances. Our work focuses on the Goal 16 of the United Nations 2030 Agenda. Mm-hmm. That is centered on promoting peaceful, just, and inclusive societies, free from crime and justice, mm-hmm. Free from crime and violence. So justice, crime prevention, and the rule of law are the basis for us for fighting poverty and reducing inequalities, while enhancing in parallel economic growth, mm-hmm. and stability, and protecting also the environment. In short, we support governments and the international community at large in tackling criminal threats to social peace and development and political stability. Mm-hmm. How do we do this? We develop research, specialized training, and capacity building programs. Mm-hmm. We test, develop, and promote innovative measures in the field of criminal justice and policy making, mm-hmm. In order to build the knowledge and the capacities of member states to preventing and countering crime, strengthening the rule of law, human rights, mm-hmm. and building civil society resiliency. In order to achieve these objectives and confront traditional and emerging threats, We adopt an holistic approach through applied and action-oriented research, the exchange of and dissemination of information, provision of training, and the creation of strong partnerships and policy support.
Now, I understand such a great initiative UNICRI is having. There's no doubt about that. But, always for any good initiative, there is rough patches. The roads are not smooth. The question is, how do you work globally? Is it not sometimes very difficult for you to get aligned with the government to make them understand the value you'd like to add for their own country's justice system? Don't you reckon sometimes you feel that they are very much rigid to welcome you? How do you work? What's your mechanism to work globally?
Yes, indeed, it's a challenge to work with countries. Also, I mean, each country has its own context, and we have to understand first of all, and to learn from the countries where we operate. We need to learn first of all their needs, the way we can involve them. I mean, we have 50 years of experience, and we have always structured our work to respond to the needs of the international community. But our work has first an impact at the national level, then regional and international. The way we work is first of all envisaging the involvement of the stakeholders, our interlocutors. So we operate, first of all, I forgot to tell you that our headquarters is in Turin, Italy, but we have many offices all around the world that are in charge of implementing the technical assistance projects. These offices are, of course, our antennas to work with the countries and to liaise with the ministers, with those who can work with us. First of all, I mean, it's when we develop our projects, we need then to test them to see whether they are really answering the need of a country. And therefore, what we do usually is to engage in these consultations I was mentioning, and to progressively tailor our work to the needs, to the context, to the concerns of the countries. And of course, in doing so, then we propose our good practices. We present our successful stories, but also we have another way to engage countries. This is by working regionally, meaning that, for instance, in the case of a global program we have on chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear risk mitigation that is currently involved in 61 countries in different regions of the world. We have found a mechanism to build a network among the countries at regional level, so that they work together with us and the European Union. And in this way, we have the possibility to really make the difference when we implement activities. Of course, then by working locally, we have also the possibility to, let's say, channel the good practices at international level. So this is our modus operandi. It's a way that starts from the global frameworks, meaning, for instance, the international conventions that are giving us guidance, and then reaches out the local by very often involving also interlocutors at the regional level.
Now, I know UNICRI is a research institute. I understand your work is basically relating to data and the document and the paperwork, but I mean, from general people perspective, how do you work to, fight against extremism? I mean, how do you work as a prevention and also countering this? Because the question is, you are a research institute. How is it possible for you?
Yes, we are a research institute, but we are also a capacity building institute, and therefore we combine these two components. In the case of the phenomenon of violent extremism, it's incredibly complex and can be approached and analyzed from various and diverse perspectives. Research in this field has contributed in different ways in advancing the understanding as well as developing targeted initiative aimed at preventing and countering violent extremism. So one of the main components of our work is, of course, to identify those factors that are leading people to join violent extremism, to join groups in different countries of the world. So the research is helping us to understand the context. For instance, we are working in the Sahel and Maghreb regions with many countries: Algeria, Burkina Faso, Chad, Libya, Mali, Morocco, Mauritania, Niger, and Tunisia. And there we have implemented more than 500 activities involving approximately 25,000 participants. So, but we started there by conducting research, understanding the role played by socioeconomic frustrations as well as the political concern of the local population. And in this respect, I mean, we cannot advance without research. For instance, now we are conducting a research on the perception that the young Malians have on their life, their role, their future. Especially when we are engaging youth people who are at risk of being recruited by violent extremist groups and in very risky areas. So with respect to terrorism, we have, let's say, an experience of 15 years in preventing and countering violent extremism. And this not only by, working with government, at the governmental level and the community and civil society level. We work also in prison settings, let's say, by engaging the penitentiary systems and setting up mechanisms to promote the reintegration and rehabilitation of violent extremist offenders. But how do you work? Why research is so important for us? For instance, when we conduct interviews with those detainees, we are able to understand the level of threat they represent. We also have developed some tools that are helping the personnel working in prison settings in understanding the different paths, the different reasons the prisoners had to join violent extremist groups. So this cannot be done without research. Is fundamental for us to understand the context, and research is helping us. Then we complement, we go ahead with training and the capacity building, meaning that based on the research, then we are able also to enhance the capacities of the local stakeholders to prevent and counter violent extremism, and in the case of the prisons to ensure that rehabilitation and reintegration mechanisms are in place.
Wonderful. Yeah, now it's clear to me. Now I can understand, because research, it's going to play the role to find the root cause. That's absolutely right. That's going to save your time, your money, your effort, and everyone's money and effort as well. That's something you're doing. Commendable job, no doubt about that. Now I'd like to move to a little bit about financial part. It's very common to have the illicit financial flow from one country to another through cyber insecurity mechanism or whatever. But we are concerned, no matter we are a developing country or developed country or even LDC, we are always concerned because every single dollar is, valuable because these are the money from the general public. So my question is, how can you tackle illicit financial flows, and what's your lesson learned in this regard?
Yes, I mean, our approach is not simply a criminal justice response. Many international agencies and national governments respond to illicit financial flows by trying to improve their anti-money laundering laws and by providing training to police, prosecutors, judges on how to investigate money laundering cases. Our response is more comprehensive. This means that, yes, we assist those in the criminal justice system to fight money laundering. But for instance, we also help tax authorities to better combat tax evasion. We help officers to improve their capacity to seize and confiscate illicit obtained assets at border crossings. And we help governments to establish mechanisms for non-penal confiscation of assets, for instance, civil confiscation. Because if states do not have such mechanism, they cannot really operate. For instance, they cannot recover illicit assets and distribute them back to people, no? Because for us it's also a priority that those assets are used for high priority development needs in the, for instance, the health and the educational sectors. Yep. So what we do, we provide technical advice to the states to help them to establish such mechanisms. Very often also through legal reforms. For instance, we have helped countries to enhance their criminal justice framework, and we have trained, of course, officers in this respect. We have developed manuals, etc. It depends also on the country where we operate, but we have also facilitate the dialogue and the cooperation between different countries, among those, for instance, who are the countries victims of this phenomenon, and those countries where the illicit assets have been deposited, for instance. So then we help countries in identifying the needs, for instance, jobs, roads, healthcare, and education, in a way that they can then use this, the assets that are recovered to promote development and to address the local needs, the needs of the local population. So we, again, in this area, we start from research, and we start identifying the gaps, and then we cooperate with other entities that can help us to give the countries a real response, because in this respect, international cooperation is fundamental. So this is the way we operate. So it's different from a simple training. It involves, depending on the country, research, legal reforms, the preparation of technical tools for the country to continue also the job, because it's also, for us, it's also important that the interventions we conduct are sustainable, meaning that the day we end the project, the country should have its own mechanisms to continue. And so our interventions are also designed in a way that will stay with the the countries we have assisted, let's say forever. I mean, if possible, but this, you know, asset recovery program we have is really important. For instance, just in the past 36 months, our office has helped states to recover well over 400 million USD.
Wow.
And this was related to acts of corruption.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have helped the countries to trace and recover these assets. I mean, this is also in line with, for us, I mean, with the Sustainable Development Goals.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, crime prevention and justice are the pillars to achieve the goals of the United Nations.
Mm-hmm.
By, I mean, providing this kind of responses.
Mm-hmm. That's definitely going to be added value, no doubt about that. Now, you know, I would like to ask you very much like in a general public perspective. Let's take an example. For example, Africa. We often say, "Oh, Africa." Why we say, "Oh, Africa"? It may have a couple of reasons. Maybe it's an expression of frustration that we are fed up of seeing poverty, criminal activities, extremism over there, or it can be the expression of sorrowness that always they are deprived, they don't get whatever they're supposed to get. Now, my question to you, for example, to the ultimate beneficiaries like Africa and one of the poorest nations, for example, how they can avail the support of UNICRI, or let me rephrase the question in another way. How do you think that this type of research, this type of innovation and technology can really work out in the area of security? It can be food security, it can be security for their life, it can be security for their financial areas. How do you reckon how ultimately we can light up the better future for the real poor people or for the real victims, especially by UNICRI?
Well, maybe you will be surprised that it's true that we associate this continent to difficult situations, but many African countries have already started exploring the benefits of the technological advances. Okay, to answer your question, I will provide you with some concrete example and try to explain the complexity of the new scenarios related to technology and innovation, at least in our field. Mm-hmm. So crime and the criminal justice system in general is increasingly data-heavy field. For instance, artificial intelligence can support law enforcement, counterterrorism agencies, and other security forces to identify and locate, for instance, long missing children, scan illicit sex advertising, disrupt human trafficking, flag financial transactions, and so on. And again, intercept the financing of terrorism. Okay, it's true that much more should be done to ensure that the least developed countries are not left behind. In Africa, however, authorities are, as I said, beginning to explore the enormous potential of artificial intelligence. For instance, Tunisia and Kenya have announced intention to develop national strategies on artificial intelligence. The Nigerian police force is developing a framework to use artificial intelligence in the prevention of cybercrime. Mm. And the 1st of October, we will start, in cooperation with the Technology Against Crime in Africa, we will host a virtual workshop for African stakeholders on how to use artificial intelligence to enhance crime prevention. Mm-hmm. For instance, this workshop will pay particular attention to the use of artificial intelligence, robotics, and new technologies in a manner that does not erode human rights, deepen inequalities or exacerbate discrimination. Because also, as I said, we work on the benefits, but also on the risks of these new technologies. And the issue of human rights protection for us, and all ethical issues related to this field are fundamental. With respect again to Africa, I mean, we are addressing the security of the supply chain and anti-counterfeiting. Counterfeiting and the supply chain security technologies have demonstrated their effectiveness in preventing counterfeit, fraudulent, and substandard goods in entering the legitimate markets. So that, of course, there's the issue of counterfeiting is compromising the security of citizens. It's also somehow creating obstacles for countries to grow. And these technologies we are exploring have shown a great adaptability to the different socioeconomic context, and are actually applied in different countries, including some African countries. Examples of application for the protection of some products were used in Kenya, Morocco, and Mozambique. So it's not that there are many countries again in Africa that are working with us. By the way, we started our project on counterfeiting as program more than a project years ago in 2004, if I'm not wrong. And one of the main issues we addressed was exactly the problem of counterfeit medicines in Africa. And we worked there with some countries to enhance the legal frameworks, the capacity to detect the infiltration of these products in the legal market, because big problem we are addressing even now is the fact that, of course, the organized crime is infiltrating the legal economies of many countries, including the African ones. So through new technologies and through the engagement of the countries also in Africa, we are trying to mitigate or reduce the impact of this kind of illicit trafficking. For instance, other example, Cameroon, Ghana, and Kenya, again, they are developing their own technological tools to address the problem of falsified medicines. And this is really, I mean, in some way, it's not. We have also to think about the fact that many African countries we can learn from them. I mean, other countries can learn from them. Of course, there are also countries that have that are less developed, that have problems of instability, food insecurity. I mean, this of course is a huge problem. But technological innovation, the UN is promoting technological innovation in Africa as well as in other countries, other continents, as a matter of, it's a priority for us, you know. Also think that, all these illicit trafficking are depriving countries of their possibility to grow. For instance, this is not related to technological innovation, but we are also addressing the issues of illicit trafficking of natural resources. We produced the first research in this respect, and research, something I forgot. When we produce research, we also issue recommendations for the countries, for the global communities. These recommendations are the basis for plan of actions, meaning then if we have the chance to work then with countries to engage them, these recommendations are really important, but also at the international level, because they can trigger a cultural change. I mean, there's think about the exploitation of illicit natural resources. I mean, since you mentioned Africa, so UNICRI is also working in this respect.
Now, fairly said about Africa, and as you said, UNICRI and other United Nations authorities, they have plenty to do, of course, and they're in the priority list, including the technology as well. So my next question is not regarding to the poor countries, it's regarding to the developing countries. Now, how can you support them spatially to ensure the rule of law, to ensure the justice system, maybe in a form of reforming their justice system? What can you do from UNICRI, especially for the developing countries?
So sorry, because could you please repeat, because I lost the
okay, no problem. I'm talking about what can UNICRI do for the developing countries in terms of maintaining their good legal practice justice system. Is there anything particularly UNICRI can provide support to the government of developing countries in terms of maintaining their legal system, justice system in a proper manner, up to date and juvenile?
Yes. I will provide you with some concrete examples. Of course, we are a small institute. We work time by time with some countries who are asking us support. We are project-based, meaning that then we have to look for funding for countries for the project we want to implement. We have a long experience in the field of juvenile justice, and I remember, for instance, two important projects we implemented in Angola and Mozambique soon after the civil war. We had the possibility to work with these countries to enhance their juvenile justice legal framework, and in parallel to put in place mechanism to ensure the proper protection of children in conflict with the law or children at risk. So I give you a concrete example. When we started, for instance, in Angola, the project, children were treated as adults, because after the war, after 27 years of civil conflict, all protection measures for children were gone. So our work was to again analyze the situation, and the situation was terrible because many children, millions of children, were displaced because of the conflict. Then we promoted the reform of the legal code. We ensured that, for instance, children were assisted by dedicated personnel, were not detained in prisons with adults. Then at community level, we created observatories to help families that exposed, or with children at risk, to have a point of contact and to receive assistance. Because, again, our response should be comprehensive. So if we promote legal reform, we have also to ensure that we have the possibility to work with the civil society and not only with the governmental authorities in a way that we can create resiliency. That we can develop the antibodies. Of course, this is not an easy task. Recently, we have produced two national action plans for two countries, and in cooperation with these two countries, on diversion and alternative measures to detention for children in conflict with the law. course, I mean, our we promote the Convention on the Right of the Child, and this is the pillar we share with the countries we work. It's because also it's important. I mean, a legal reform can be implemented when the country has adopted the international tools, where for instance, the convention I was mentioned, and then is progressively including the measures that are necessary to be aligned to these international tools. So this is our work. I mean, our work is, I mean, we want to have this holistic approach when we have the possibility to work at different levels. The case I was mentioning about countering violent extremism, and you know, many children are also at risk of being recruited by violent extremist groups. So in this respect, legal reforms are fundamental, but in parallel, we have to involve communities.
Yep.
Because the vulnerabilities of people are there, yep. And poverty, unemployment, lack of opportunities are root causes. Lack of education in the case of children, and poverty. These are the causes. Okay, we see the fact is terrorism, the effect is violence, etc. But when we operate, we have also really to address the reasons of the situations we want to change.
Yeah, oh my goodness, we have got to know so many things for UniCRI or about UniCRI. Thanks a lot, Marina. And before ending up, we'd like to ask you, how's your experience of today's show? How did you feel about Channel 20, about this?
It's a wonderful experience, and also because really you gave me a lot of space and the possibility to explain our work. I really thank you also for your patience, because you helped me to start this interview, and I'm very happy that finally we succeeded. And I really hope your audience will be somehow, I mean, I hope I'm not, I didn't bore, I mean, I did, somehow I trigger your curiosity, the curiosity of your audience. So you may also visit our website, you may also follow us and see what we are doing in other areas. And really we believe that having the possibility, such as the one you have offered us, to be engaged with the people, I mean, is a priority. It's really. I'm sorry we cannot interact with your audience, but I think that our chat today may have a follow-up. I don't know.
Sure. Why not? And I'm confident, and I can boldly say that Channel 20 will be with UniCRI all the time. After this show, we will try to work out on a mechanism. How can we promote UniCRI worldwide? How can we make you more closer to our people, to our audience? Why not? We'll be working together. No worries. And before ending up the show, if you have anything to say for our world citizen as a social message, or any statement from you or from UniCRI, feel free to share any statement in the end, please.
Well, the only statement is that we can succeed if we are together. There's no way we succeed in achieving prosperity for all. I mean, we are also, I didn't mention this pandemic that is affecting the world. We are working also in this direction, but I think that we have to be united more than ever, because this is a really difficult period for everybody. So let's hope, let's have some hope, but let's be together in this, because it's the only way we can also limit the impact of this pandemic all around the world.
True. And with the Mariana Mazzini's note, we are also echoing that, yes, we need to be united, we need to be together, and we believe in it. And that's why Channel 20's motto is better together. We don't believe in separation, we believe in unitedness. That's all for today's show. We're going to meet again with you on next episode with another new guest. Till then, stay tuned and be safe. Thank you. Bye-bye.